Shep It!
Shep It!
Shep It!
Hello and welcome to Shep It, a Mass Effect newbies podcast, first-timers podcast. We call ourselves a lot of different things here, but we are, if the title didn't explain it quite clearly enough, we are playing Mass Effect for the first time. And who is that we? Well, my name is Jonathon Dornbush, and I'm joined, as I will be in perpetuity, I hope, because I hope we're going to play this whole trilogy after even just a few hours. I'm joined by Belinda Garcia.
Hello.
And also joined this week by Jordan Mychal Lemos.
Hello, and yeah, we're playing the whole thing. We're doing it.
Yeah, we're all together.
Front to
we're
back.
Together.
Never stopping.
No stopping.
Exactly, as never stopping. We're gonna be going through the whole trilogy, but of course we're starting with Mass Effect 1. If you didn't listen to episode 0, that's up for you to go listen to. You can get a little bit of a longer sense of what the show is going to be about, but basically we're going to be playing and using the show to kind of talk about our experiences. We're essentially not telling each other like really what we've been doing or the choices we've been making before we come into the show, so it's kind of going to be, you know, a bit of a surprise for each of us. We're also because we don't know these games, we're kind of laying the track down of what the show is as we go. So we won't exactly always know where the next episode will take us, but we'll try to give you as much warning in advance as we can. This first episode, though, we'll be talking specifically about character creation, because obviously creating your own Shepard is a big part of this franchise, as well as the sort of prologue on Eden Prime. And then next episode 2, will be going into the Citadel and your first sort of side missions and story missions there. But we're going to start off with, who we created, our Shepards in general. At the beginning, you can obviously pick male or FemShep. You can pick a class. I just kind of want to start off by saying, and then I want to hear from both of you, I made some choices. I hope they're good. They're apparently going to carry along for the whole trilogy, so I hope I didn't mess up too badly. But I went with FemShep, and I chose the Vanguard class because I usually like a little mix of action and magic, for lack of a better term, but like the special abilities that you get here. So that's what I ended up going with. Belinda, what did you start off with?
I also did Vanguard for my class because I just want a choice, because I was going into this not knowing if there was even combat, period. So I was like, yeah, someone that can do both sounds like where I want to be.
Yeah, and did you do male or FemShep?
Oh, I did FemShep. What did you name your Shepard?
So I named mine Di. DI, because it's I've been doing that with basically my girlfriend and I. Whenever there's character creation, I let her handle it because I'm very bad at those. And we wanted sort of like a unifying theme through all the characters we create, though, and so Di being short for Diana, but also die as a pun, like, because we're probably going to be dying a lot. I think I did it when I created like a character in Demon Souls or Bloodborne for the first time. That's where I was like, oh, it's funny because I'm going to keep dying so much in this game. And so that's just kind of been what stuck. What did you name yours, though?
We'll get into it because I restarted
yes.
Oh, right.
3 times.
Yes.
It was B, which is BA, which is my nickname from when I was little. And then the one that I actually kept with, because I did 2 of them as B and I couldn't differentiate between the third one, I've named it Belle, like the first 3 letters of my name. Nice. So it's Belle Shep is what I'm calling her.
I like it. That sounds great. And Jordan, what did you go with for character creation?
We almost did all the same, but I almost went Vanguard and didn't.
Okay.
I made male Shep, so I'm playing the dude, and I went Adept. I went like the full kind of more magical class, I guess it is. So I figured there's enough games out there with guns and everything that I'm going to try to use as much of the kind of like powers as possible, was my thought. We'll get into that more in the combat when we start talking about that, but they're fun to use, but you definitely still use guns a whole lot, that's for sure. So
yeah, it's definitely something that I'm curious how that will progress, and we'll get into sort of the basics of combat. But yeah, you have I very almost went toward Adept because I am usually like a magic class kind of person.
Yeah.
It's just more fun. Like, I know what a sword does. I know what a gun
right.
does. I want to see what crazy powers you get.
Exactly.
But this felt like a good balance. But yeah, I'm curious to see if it will end up differentiating. But I am glad that we didn't all go either male or FemShep, because I think it will let us get a different flavor, because often, like, I think both are considered really great. I just know FemShep is kind of the one people tend to gravitate toward, but I'm curious to hear how we both, or all three of us, excuse me, end up feeling about, like, the two versions of them.
Yeah, there's definitely been moments with the voice acting where the male Shep has been extremely funny with, like, his tone in certain situations. So I'm curious to hear if, like, those scenes for you both felt the same, or like if they hit differently because you went FemShep and I didn't and stuff like that. Because there's been moments where I'm like, this is kind of serious, but like this is very like B-movie action-y, like the way he delivered the line kind of thing, which kind of makes it great. Like it's so much better actually. So, but I'm curious to know like how FemShep is in that.
Yeah, that's also true, because I've forgotten, it's probably worth mentioning, you do get to choose a little bit of your character's background. I don't have those exact questions up. I'll see if I can find them as we're talking. But do either of you remember sort of like, I guess, the personality or background that you gave your Shepherd? Because for me, I kind of went with they had the darker past of essentially like they lived through a lot of the really hard battles that they fought, and, you know, like their whole platoon essentially died and they were the lone survivor. So they have a lot of like emotional battle scars, because to me that seemed like a good setup for a character.
Mm-hmm.
I did it's called Soul Survivor, and I did that as well. I did Colonist and then Soul Survivor, and it's funny because with Soul Survivor they keep bringing up Akuze, which is like, you know, you survived Akuze, yada yada yada. And it's similar to, like, the Harry Potter, like, you have your father's eyes. It's like, I know, he's dead. Like, let's get over it. So, because every single person you, I don't know if, Jordan, you chose Soul Survivor, but every single person is just like, oh, man, Akuze, like, you were so great. I heard about this. Or like, oh, I'm so sorry, Akuze, everyone's dead. And I'm like, yeah, just, like, keep bringing it up. That's fun. Like, I'm not scarred or traumatized for life.
Yeah, I went ruthless, and they do the same thing with that one, where it's like basically I went on some mission and was very ruthless, and hence the name. And so they like everyone also brings that up. They're just like, oh, you did that mission on this planet, and you like totally didn't care about your men or anything. And I'm just like, yeah, I guess so. Whatever you say. And like, but everyone keeps reminding me, and I'm just like, yeah, I guess this is my one defining trait.
Yeah, it's that funny thing, and I feel like it's probably a little bit of the growing pains of the story, and for a game that is so like choice based, that they like, because you haven't experienced this, they want you to make sure that like you feel like it's important. But you're both totally right. I did the Soul Survivor one. Thank you for remembering the name. And yeah, it's very funny. You're totally right. It's the you have your mother's eyes, or like Hawkeye and Black Widow is being like, remember Budapest, but it's not funny. Yeah. It's just really dark every time. It's like, oh yeah, all that terrible stuff on Akuze. Also, Akuze is a really fun name to say.
It is.
Yes, so fun.
And I keep...
It's like Yakuza. It sounds like Yakuza, that's why.
I keep thinking it's a funny nickname for someone, but it's a traumatic event that is formative to my character.
Yeah, I just had to look mine up. Mine is Torfin. It was on a moon that our mission was on, is Torfin. Someone's just like, mission on Torfin. And I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it happened.
I did it. That was me. You heard right.
So yeah, that's a funny thing. I'm curious to see how much that ends up playing down the line. It does feel like a lot to just help you get in and to have a reason for like your character acting a certain way. Right. But yeah, at least so far, I think I've been playing pretty close to the idea of like, this is a character who's seen some stuff. Like I'm mostly making those choices of I'm leaning at least Paragon right now. Though I did make a few accidental Renegade choices, and we can get into that stuff in a little bit. But yeah, I'm leaning Paragon, so it's very much someone who's like, you know, I've been through this. I'm trying to do what I can to do good, because I'm not able to make up... Like, I'm trying to make up for the mistakes of my whole crew dying, basically. Whether or not that, like, all pays off, it's one of those weird things where we're like, I'm really enjoying it so far. Like, I think, you know, full disclaimer, I am loving the game, but it is one of those things where I'm like, how much is every choice going to matter?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And I tweeted out, I was like, I feel like I've already made 5 anxiety-inducing decisions within these first few hours. And people were tweeting back at me like, oh, you have no idea what's to come. And I'm like, what? No.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What does that
So it's gonna be really disconcerting, I guess, down the line. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with where I created my character. And before sort of just like gut checking how we feel about our Shepards in general, Belinda, I did want to touch on. You did mention, of course, you're on your third version of Shepard.
I am on my third version. So I played through with my first Shepard about 4 hours, so I got pretty deep in there. And I guess I didn't realize how much you look at her face. And because it's an older game, the mechanics are a little weird, and so certain hair doesn't work as well as you want it to, or certain lips or nose or chin, and like I just underestimated how much I would be looking at her face. And then at some point I was like, I'm gonna change her, because I gave her like this blue eyeshadow and it was just so bright, like, and I had to look at it over and over again. And then like her chin was really small and I had no idea. And also like when you're creating the character, the head doesn't really move to where you're like, it kind of does, but not really. And then so I restarted and did a second one. And then I got to Eden Prime with that one. I was like, not quite. I did third one's the charm. Kept it pretty simple. And I love her. I think she's so cute. She's adorable. Nice. She is, just super simple, like black hair, like in a bun that I'm literally doing right now. And she has like cute little matted black lipstick, and then like the light sparkly brown eyes, and I was like, you're beautiful, I love you. And so now I'm in love with her, and I think she's perfect. Nice,
good. I'm glad you finally landed on it, because yeah, it is, especially when you're dealing with an older game and when you're dealing with a character you're gonna have to look at for a long time. You don't want it to be awful. I definitely came away and was like, oh, the cheekbones aren't exactly where I thought they were going to land.
Yes, exactly.
But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with. As I said, I let my girlfriend mostly handle it, and I don't know how to quite explain who she is. It feels like, I feel like she has the personality of Emily Blunt in Edge of Tomorrow, but with a little bit of the look of Emma Stone, I guess.
Okay, that's a good image.
Those are the vibes, I guess, she's giving off. But Jordan, what is your approach, I guess, for your Shepard like character creation?
Well, I often, when there's character creation for games, I like just making the most hideous person ever, just because I think it's funny. Like, I do that in like Dark Souls and stuff, and it makes it a little less like spooky, and because I can't do spooky games, so I'm like, if my character looks like someone that should not be there, or even in this world, it's really funny to me. So I almost did that with here. I almost wanted to mess up my Shepard as much as I could, but I didn't. I was like, nope, I'm gonna play it straight this time. I still hate how he looks, though. There was like no good nose, so it's like real life. I hate his nose, I hate my nose, so like we have that in common. But like Caden is way more handsome than I am, so I never take him on missions, because I'm just like, how dare you? I'm the captain here, so you could stay on the ship all the time. You're going on no missions. Anytime he shows up in a scene, I'm just like, what are you doing here? Leave.
You roguishly handsome
clean the
bastard.
bathrooms or something. Yeah. he basically looks like the character that I kind of wish that I was able to create. Mm-hmm. And then we're standing in an elevator side by side, and it just really shows off Shepard's flaws.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Caden is absolutely, I was like, I saw him and I thought, oh, that's what I probably would have wanted my male Shepard to look like. So I'm glad for the most part I didn't go that way. But yeah, sometimes I would say in general, even though I'm happy with where my FemShep ended up, on the whole, the side characters end up being a little bit more attractive, I would say.
Which I guess makes sense, since they're like crafted and we're kind of piecing together a Mr. or Mrs. Potato Head sort of situation. Though I will say my male Shep voice doesn't match his face completely, which makes it kind of weird sometimes. I'm just like, oh, that voice is coming out of that face. I don't buy it, So there's been a few moments like that.
Like, I tried to make my FemShep, like, I tried to make her look Asian, because I'm Asian, so I'm like, come on, like, give me something. And then you get into the game, and you're like, the voice will never match, like, my FemShep, no matter how. So I had to find, like, a happy medium where, like, she's dark-skinned and had, like, brown eyes and black hair. Because when I make characters in games, I try to skew, like, similar to how I look. And then sometimes I'll like throw in blue hair or like throw in blue lips. I'll be like, what am I gonna be bold in this time? And so they didn't have blue hair, which made me sad because I always go for blue hair, so I just had her have black hair. But yeah, I was like, no matter how I make her look, like no matter how ethnic I make her look, like she's gonna have the same voice, so
yeah,
I'm just gonna roll with it.
It's still gonna be Jennifer Hale's voice, which she does a great job, but yeah, it's one of those like this isn't one of those games where you can choose from like 6 or 7 different voices by hearing how they go, huh! Which is one of the most fun things to try to guess in a game. Yeah. But yeah, it is definitely one of those things where I feel a little bit of that disconnect sometimes too, even with just, I think my FemShep is pretty close to like working for the voice, but there's enough variation that you can get in there that I could imagine like sometimes it doesn't quite stick.
Yeah.
But the voice actors are doing what they can, not knowing how you're gonna make the character. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know my character more at this point, because I feel pretty early on we're still getting a sense of like they're an important character, and I think the game does a pretty good job at the start of like making you recognize how they're considered by other people. But it also gives them a little bit of artifice, because people, and we'll get into this in the next episode, but like when you get to the Citadel, pretty much everyone knows is like, yes, Commander Shepard, of course. It's like, what? Okay, apparently I'm a big
constantly
deal.
just like, how do you know me? He seems surprised, or he or she seems surprised every single time too. You're just like, how do you know me? And you think after like the 12th time that they'd be like, yes, everyone knows me here.
I'm famous.
Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was excited by our characters, and this is a note to myself more than anything, but I should definitely collect a photo of all 3 of our Shepards so we can post that together on Twitter.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I like that those choices were there at the beginning to give you personality as well as the look for your character. I'm very curious to know how that stuff carries across the entire trilogy, because it was a little daunting to think, this might all really, really be important 100 hours down the line.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Like, is it in the 3rd game, they're still going to be like, Torfin, you did that. And I'm just like, whoa, they're still talking about that. I've done a lot since then, Or if it's kind of like, that is the jumping off point to like your lore or like how people know you in the game. And then as you do more stuff, now you're Commander Shepard, and now you're, the Spectre, or, whatever. If they just like never mention it again, I'm very curious.
Yeah, it's worth noting, and because I know there may be some longer time Mass Effect fans who have played the series before. I know that one of the things they did was essentially like the FemShep of the 3rd game, sort of the base model, is now the standard FemShep across the trilogy, because people just love that version of the character so much. And so it is one of those things where you could kind of go into each new game and make new choices, or start a character fresh. And so I'm curious what the balance goes in between each of the 3 games, but it's meant to matter. And so, in the back of my head, every time I was having a character dialogue, especially at a place that seems important, like the Citadel or with your squad mates, I'm like, what is this going to mean for later?
I know.
But before we get to the Citadel and everything, we do want to touch on the Eden Prime mission, which is essentially the sort of prologue that gets you a little bit familiar with your character, with a little bit of the gunplay, with squad behavior and all that sort of stuff. You start out essentially, and I don't want to go to like bullet point by bullet point of what the story beats were, because obviously we played it all. Hopefully if you're listening to this show, you played it either alongside us or have played it before. So this isn't going to be a show where I think we're trying to like recap every inch of the story. I want it to be more about the conversations of like what we did and the choices we made and all that sort of stuff. So this first mission introduces you to Caden and Ashley, your first 2 squad mates. You meet them along the way of this mission. It gives you sort of a basis for what I think will be main antagonists when it comes to the sort of showdown that happens toward the end of this mission, and the betrayal of Nihilus at the hands of Saren. And it also introduces you a little bit to combat. And so before we get into story choices and combat stuff, or story choices and narrative side of it, I did want to talk about combat, because obviously, as we said in episode 0, Belinda, you didn't even know if there was combat in this franchise.
So there's combat.
There is. And what did you think?
It's booty. I think it's terrible. It's so, like, we've come so far, and of course, like, I'm keeping in mind that this game came out, over a decade ago, and I, am coming off playing like Last of Us 2 and like having that, gunplay in mind. And like I can get through the combat like totally just fine, but like I feel like I miss almost every shot. Like I can't I'm playing Vanguard, so I'm good with pistols and shotguns. But usually I'm not very good at pistols and shotguns, and I like shooting with assault rifles. Like just over every game ever, I usually like rifles or like small machine guns. So it was jarring a little bit for the combat, but you kind of get used to it. Like you just kind of meld into the type of game that it is. I do forget to use my special abilities. I'm better at it now, but in the beginning I was like, what are these special abilities? How do I use them? Like, what is this wheel? But yeah.
Well, and especially because you have control over your squad mates too, and can make them use that. I totally was in the same place where I was like, oh right, I should be using those more. Like they're on a cooldown, but you really need to kind of, at least at the beginning, remind yourself to keep using them because they are handy. But if you don't, you're kind of just stuck. I agree. I had that initial thing of like, absolutely, I think we all are under agreement of like, this is a decade plus old game. We're not like holding it to the same standards. But when you think about what you've been playing recently, the thing that I think struck me the most is that like when shots hit versus don't, I don't really see the connection. Like there's, I don't feel the sense of like the bullets ending up toward the enemy. Like they could miss as easily as they could hit, and I wouldn't know the difference.
Or even if headshots matter. Like I'm like, I think
they do.
Headshots.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
I've been sniping a lot.
And they matter. Right. Okay.
Okay. How is the what, I guess also, Jordan, what is an adept with, for lack of a better?
For gun wise, literally only pistols.
Oh, okay.
So I've been using pistols a lot, but I've kind of just been going with whatever I feel like or whatever good gun I have at the moment. And I'm just like, who cares about the like extra bonus stuff? Like, so I've just been sniping a whole bunch, like at the start of a mission or like fight, I'll just snipe a whole bunch, knock out a bunch of people. And then one thing I really like is that this is the thing I need to remind myself to do, is the right and left on the D-pad, you can like send your party members to locations and stuff. So I've kind of been like being like an Overwatch character with my sniper rifle and then like forcing them to push up into cover and stuff. Like, and it's been fun. But yeah, obviously because I'm adept, I have a lot more like magical powers, I guess. So I'm doing a lot of those. And one of them is like, I can just lift someone in the air and they just like float there like dangling and they don't do anything, and then you just like skeet shoot them out of the air, and it's the most fun thing ever. It's so fun.
I need to know which one that is, because
it's just called lift, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Probably
we have throw and warp at the beginning.
Oh,
I have those two as well. Yeah.
Which, as far as I'm concerned, do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But they both definitely do a lot of damage, so I've been using them as much as I can.
They do.
But
I usually open with it. Like when I get into a room, I just throw it out there and then use the gun.
Yeah, because it'll need that time to recharge anyway. And so I think the thing that'll be exciting about combat, or at least I hope, where I see the potential, is that strategy and using things timely and smartly, because at least like the base gunplay doesn't really do a ton for me, especially because you do have one of each of the type of weapons, which I believe is a new change. I think previously you were only allowed to basically use the weapons you were skilled
That's
with
what I heard.
at the start. But so we have access to all of them, and it is nice to switch around for sure, because if they're overheating and needing recharge.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say that surprised me, actually. So it's interesting to know that was a change, because when I got in and had just all 4 guns right away, like mission 1, I wasn't expecting that. I thought they were going to start me with,
oh, I can use all of these right now.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, actually. Like, I don't have to be like, oh, I'm stuck with this pistol because I chose this class, or I'm stuck with the shotgun when I wish I could use the assault rifle. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
And I do like that you're not worrying about like picking up ammo everywhere as you go. Like you can obviously,
oh my god, yes,
pick up different types of ammo and stuff like that, and equipment that you can find around. But yeah, it's super nice to not have to worry about like, okay, my pistol only has 3 bullets left. It's just it just needs to recharge for 20 seconds or whatever.
I love that so much. I hate looking for ammo. I think I'm gonna bring up Last of Us 2 again, but I ran out of ammo so much in that game because I went gun heavy and never did any cool tricks and threw the brick and all the things that they designed for me to do. I didn't do any of them. and I just used guns, but I was like blowing through ammo, and it was so hard to find any extra laying around.
And Jordan, what were you saying about ammo? Sorry,
It didn't even cross my mind. That was like, it didn't even register that I wasn't having to pick up ammo. But now that I think about it, it's like, oh yeah, I haven't done that. I'm just worrying about overheating my guns, but you can get better guns that do better with overheating too. So it's like you can fire longer. So it's like basically getting a bigger clip kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's nice not having to loot that.
But I totally understand also, like, not even thinking about that, because it does feel very intuitive to what the gunplay is. Because at the end of the day, this is not a, like, what's the coolest looking, like, SMG I can find or the coolest rifle. Like, you obviously want the better stats when you can get them, but they're sort of just, like, your arsenal. It's just there. You're using what you've got.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's a few firefights that happen here. You meet the two first party members. Any initial reactions to those party members? Jordan, I know you were saying you don't want to have to look at Caden's face because it's too handsome.
I don't even want to say his name. Yeah,
fair
enough. I don't want to think about him. If I think about him, I think of his face, and then I think of my Shepard's face, and then it's all downhill from there.
The man on the ship.
There you go.
But have you stuck with either of the humans? I guess without spoiling too far ahead. Like, are you enjoying their characterization? Like, how did they hit for you to start?
I literally haven't used them. The moment that I had two other people, I used them. Caden and Ashley have not been on a single mission with me since I could replace them.
I will reveal mine in a second, but Belinda, what about you?
They're like vanilla garbage. And so I like talking to them wasn't fun. Also, Ashley is a racist, which is a spoiler for later. Or actually, it's not a spoiler because she is one. But like, I just like wasn't. I tweeted it out a few days ago, and it was because I was only far enough in the game that I still had them, and I was like, when do I get new friends? Like, I don't want to talk to them. They're not interesting, and I don't like any of them. So, and so I did the same thing. Once I could switch them out, I've never gone back. And there's a trophy where you have to do 5 missions with one of them, and I'm like, do I just not get the trophy?
So side missions do count for that, because I as a like trophy hunter obsessive person for that stuff.
Good to know.
I was worried about having to keep them in my party because, like both of you, I don't like them. I'll say Caden is he's more boring. He's not bad.
Fine.
He like, I talked to him a bit on the
garbage.
Yep, exactly. I talked to him a little bit on the ship, and like, he means well, and he's trying to do a good job. Like, there's a little bit, if you go talk to the doctor on the ship, you find out that he like essentially is operating on older hardware within him.
Yeah, like, that was cool.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's
he's just boring.
Yeah, like, that's a cool fact about him, and made me feel a little sympathy for him. But whenever I talk to him, I kind of look at my phone. And so I did the 5 side missions in the Citadel, which we'll talk about next episode. But I did those, got the trophies, and they're just gonna stick on the ship. But yeah, I very much am with you both, and the same thing about Ashley hearing that she was a space racist. I was like, cool, I don't need her in my party then.
No, you can also stay on the ship forever.
Exactly. So I would say it is not the greatest introduction for your party members, but we'll get into the next episode about how honestly shocking it is that how quickly you can get more party members, but I think probably for the better. But anyway, so you're unfortunately stuck with Caden and Ashley, and I guess apologies to any Caden fans out there. Ashley, if you're a fan, I'm maybe a little bit worried because she is a space racist. But anyway, you're stuck with the two of them for this first Eden Prime mission. You're going to hunt down a beacon to potentially get essentially alien technology that the last time humans had access to it was essentially how they became able to travel through space like this, and the advancements of their technology. And I guess, I know I was saying we'll keep on gameplay, but I did want to say, and let me know how you both think, I did like that sort of setup in the story, the idea that like humans are kind of on the back foot here. They are the newcomers to the whole collective of alien races.
And we really only got there because of the one discovery we got that just like super jumped our technology forward. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I like that. When are we going to do that in real life?
Humans lightweight suck in this universe, which I'm like, cool. Yeah, sure. Like, I agree.
Yeah, it's fair that everyone kind of looks at us a little bit like, okay, but how are they going to act when we let them into all this stuff?
Yeah.
And it's like,
I'm like, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's having lived here for my life, very fair. But so anyway, you're on the hunt for this information because Keith David told you it would really help the human race. And as you're going through, there's a couple of firefights. There's one bit of character interaction that I did want to touch on. It's about midway through the mission, I would say, and you happen upon, I'm trying to find exactly what it's called, but you find an investigative research camp. And after you've eliminated the enemies, as you're searching around, you can decrypt a doorway, and you're able to talk to two people inside it. I'm trying to find their exact name. Dr. Warren and her assistant, Dr. Manuel. And so you can talk to them, check if they're safe. You can, try to help make sure they're okay. If you do that, you get a couple Paragon points if you're nice to them. But Dr. Manuel is not well. He is definitely disturbed by things that are going on. And you can choose...
He really wasn't well when I was done with them.
No, you can choose to kind of really be mean to this guy and punch him. And basically tell him, hey, dude, shut up, which is not great. I want to preface it is definitely the Renegade choice. But Jordan, you did it.
I mean, I didn't. Shepard did.
Yes, excuse me.
I'm playing a role here.
You're
I would
playing
not
a
have punched this
ruthless
guy,
Shepard.
But
yeah.
Shepard punched this dude in the face, and you knock him out, and the doctor is like, what did you do that for? And Shepard's like, he'll be fine. He just has to sleep it off. And immediately the doctor's just like, yeah, you're kind of right. It'll give time for the medication to kick in that I gave him. And like, that's it. And I'm just like, cool.
I like how she drugged him. It was like, just wait till it kicks in.
It'll be fine.
This specific point I played through 3 times.
True.
And so when I listen, because when I played through it the first time, I have no idea what's going on. So playing through to this point a second and third time, what he's saying has a little bit more weight, because I'm like, he's sort of onto something. Like, he kind of is describing what you end up seeing because of the beacon. Like, he says, like, end of the world, and then when you mention Nihilus, or say, like, was a Turian out here, he's like, yeah, he was here before the attack, and then Caden's like, no, he wasn't, he was with us, and like, that was Saren. So
right. He
has a little bit of truth to him. So of course I'm full Paragon and did not punch him because he's not wrong.
Yeah, he definitely, it was one of those things where I could tell as he was saying stuff, I was like, oh, this is probably important, but I don't understand the full context of it. Yeah. And out of curiosity, I was trying to play a Paragon, and I am trying to play a Paragon, but I did accidentally punch him.
Accidentally punched him.
Well, that was the choice I made, and now I'm going to have to live with those Renegade points for the rest of my playthrough. But yeah, it's very something that I am curious to see how often that'll happen. Obviously, we probably won't be playing through the whole game 3 times at each checkpoint.
Right.
But, I imagine there's going to be a lot of sort of like preceding stuff. And I did think that set things up pretty well for the rest of this mission, because you're going, before you get into this mission, I guess I should rewind a little bit. Before you get onto Eden Prime, specifically Nihilus, the Spectre, which are sort of the elite operatives for the Alien Alliance that kind of helps keep everything running, is there to investigate the beacon and everything, goes on ahead because they prefer to work alone. And eventually we see that Saren, another Spectre slash, I believe they're both of the same alien species, betrays him and just kills him point blank. And obviously we get to learn a little bit more about Saren as things go on. But I was totally shocked, like that, as someone who like didn't really know these characters yet at all. That totally threw me for a loop when that happened. I was like, oh, shit's real. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I was upset, though, too, because Nihilus looked really cool, and his voice was really cool, and I like him. Like, I forget what the name of the race is, but, like, he's my favorite. Like, I like him way more than Garrus, who we'll talk about later, but, like, I like Nihilus way more, and so I'm just, like, upset that, like, the first 20 minutes, I'm just like, I'm never going to see him again. That kind of sucks. I thought we were going to be best buds throughout this journey, but we're not.
I guess that the mission kind of made me realize how serious this game was, because Jenkins dies and
Yep.
then Nihilus dies, and I was like, oh, okay, we're like, I have no idea what's gonna happen. Like, I thought it's like first mission, little
combat
bit of
tutorial.
Yeah. Like, we're gonna have a great time. And I was like, oh my god, is he like dead?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, we're going to the body, I'm like, oh my, they're like dead. Like, I just spent some time with them, and I like talked to them and had conversations with them, and now they're gone. And it kind of like put that weight on me, like, wow, I really like have no idea what's going to happen in this game, which is which made me so much more excited to get into it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there, and I think that's why I came out of this, even this first session before getting to the Citadel, just really excited about the potential for where these games can go. And yeah, I was in that moment, and I think I had a similar reaction of like, oh, this stuff is serious, and I don't know where it's going to go. But it also, like, I think it sets up stakes in a really great way for your character too, because I went into this thinking, oh, it's going to be like a space badass power fulfillment fantasy sort of thing, and I'm just going to come in guns blazing, throwing my cool biotics around, and you like, you can obviously, you know, deal some damage at the start, but no, they're, you know, people you think are going to really matter just die instantly. It's a really cool start. Sorry, go ahead.
I think my favorite part of the game so far, because I'm really, really enjoying it. Like, I knew I would enjoy it, but I'm like really into it. Like, I'll, you know, be getting ready for bed, and I'm like, I could get, you know, give like 2 hours to Mass Effect, and then all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh, whoops, that was my bad. But my favorite part of the game so far is just how much the world feels lived in. Because there are some RPGs where you get into the game as the protagonist, and you know you're the protagonist. Like, everything revolves around you. No one moves without you. Like, the world is at pause until you get there. And it kind of starts, and, you know, there's just been, like, centuries long of, like, aliens. They've already, you know, figured out their government. Humans are late to the party. And I'm like, whoa, this is awesome. Like, this is already a world that I, like, am excited to jump into, because it's already happening, whether or not like you decide to be a part of it. Like, it's happening.
Yeah, I'm totally there with you. It very much establishes the universe as this ongoing thing, and doesn't, as important as you are obviously to people, it doesn't make you the center point of the universe just yet. Like, I imagine we'll get there at some point, to a certain extent, but it's, as you're saying, like, there are ongoing conflicts. There are people who are having their lives, and you're either getting thrown into the middle of them or disrupting them or whatnot. Like, it really sets that up in a pretty great way, I think, just at the start. But sort of moving along through the end of Eden Prime, you do a quick sort of combat scenario where you're defusing some bombs, which honestly, that was my favorite combat encounter here, only because it gave me like something else to do to break up just standing and shooting. Like, it was a nice balance that I'm like, I hope we get more of that.
I will say one thing about, well, it's combat related, but it's not. Why can't I just run forever outside of combat? Why does my Shepherd not believe in cardio?
Yep.
What kind of space force is this?
And to my knowledge, you can't change it, right? Like, you can't
I don't think
get more sprinting
Sure
power.
doesn't seem that way.
Yeah, that was absolutely, so two I guess gameplay complaints that just can't get changed, I guess. But yeah, the running speed thing is so funny, because you click it in and you get about 3 steps, and then they need you know, a gallon of water, and it's like, you were the apex of this.
Akuze.
You know, Akuze happened. The moon, like, all these important things have happened in your life. You are at the pinnacle of your health, supposedly. Like, you are this prime specimen of the army, and you can't run. It's just
I'm just going to say that it's some weird, like, humans on other planets sort of situation, gravity, oxygen thing, but also, like, outside of combat. I get it inside of combat, fine. You want to limit me from running from cover to cover and stuff, but outside of combat, just come on, let me run around Citadel.
Please.
Why am I getting fatigued in Citadel as I'm trying to run around?
Like, those Citadel walkways are not short. I should be able to run the length.
They're very not short.
We'll get to that in episode 2, but yeah, it is a strange thing, and the funny thing for me is I think we're all playing on PlayStation, correct?
Yep.
So the thing for me is that 4 buttons make you pull out your weapon, and only one of them puts it away.
Yeah, that is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, especially for me, it's the touchpad that's the problem, because I just inherently go there for the map or a pause screen.
Yep.
Right.
And it's just like, oh, just hanging around the Normandy, here's my gun. And it's like, oh, no, don't kill anyone. Luckily, nothing went wrong on the Normandy, but it was one of those, like, I just wish that was the map. I just want it to be a map.
I was worried the first time I accidentally pulled out my gun. I mean, we can talk about that with the Citadel, but that's the first time I did it, and I was just like, "Oh no, I'm gonna get like arrested, or like people are gonna come because I pulled my weapon. They're gonna think I'm."
Right.
Thankfully, nothing did. But at the same time, I kind of wish something did. Like, I kind of like to get in trouble for like pulling my weapons.
Yeah, I threw a bomb on the Normandy.
Oh, I've been throwing bombs all over the place.
Oh yeah, grenades. The grenades are hard to use. I'm just gonna say that too. It's
Yeah.
weird.
So
They're like
hard.
little discs, and they just like fly forward. But then like you, I can never tell how far they've gone before I need to explode them. So like it'll be like either like 50 feet past them or 50 feet before them. I'll like set the explosion off, and I'm just like, well, that was useless.
Yeah. It's especially there's one bit where like essentially like zombified enemies are running at you on Eden Prime, and I'm trying to like knock them out from afar with the grenades, and I just never hit one of them.
Yeah.
I have not hit anyone with the grenades, and I try every time.
Yep.
And I just don't detonate it in time, or I throw it and then it doesn't detonate when I want it to, and then it just goes off and all of the enemies are past it. And I'm like, I'm just not going to use them anymore.
I killed my whole squad one time. I was trying to throw it through a doorway, and I accidentally sidearmed it against the wall. And then I was like, okay, as long as I don't push square, I don't think it'll blow up. And then it did, and it got a game over because I just.
I didn't know you could do that.
I know, me neither. Oh wow.
Good to
That's
know.
yeah. I will avoid doing that in the future.
Careful
But
of those doorways.
yeah, that is a very good tip number 1 of this show. Be careful of doorways. So anyway, you move on a little bit further into Eden Prime, and eventually you find the beacon after this sort of betrayal scene and everything. There's a little bit of a shootout that happens there, and Shepard goes to protect. For me, it was Caden. I don't know if it's different per party member.
It was
But
Caden for me too.
Wait, Caden was near the
beacon. And sort of
for me it was Ashley.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, interesting.
I was curious if that changed. That's good to know. But
I guess so. Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I just assumed it was her for all of it, but interesting.
yeah, so
Wow.
they're getting sucked in. Shepard goes to save them, but by, of course, happenstance, is then within the field of the beacon being activated and has this very jarring dream sequence vision of a bunch of, for them, death and destruction and blood. Presumably it's a lot of red and a lot of splotches. Fun fact, I had to edit a feature about like little known Mass Effect facts, and apparently that whole sequence was done using, they filmed like meat being thrown around because they wanted
That's
it to
amazing.
have a different weird look. So they like
I love this.
it was revealed in like a behind the scenes BioWare book, and essentially the person who filmed it, went to the supermarket, bought some meat, and basically did a little short film in their basement or their backyard or something.
That's amazing.
And that's how you get this extremely, I assume, important vision.
Sure seems important.
I don't have a ton to say about it right now because genuinely, like, I don't know what the hell happened there.
I'm gonna say I played through it 3 times. This is up to like I basically did Eden Prime 3 times.
Yeah.
I still could not tell you, and I tried really hard the second and third time to really look and see what I could see, and I couldn't see anything. But I guess it was just all meat.
Yeah.
It was all meat.
In the end, it was all meat. But yeah, it's a weird one to have, but it obviously feels like it's going to be important. I assume, honestly, for the whole trilogy. I genuinely don't know like what the implication will be.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too.
But yeah, it's funny to try to pick apart in my mind, I guess because we have the benefit of the whole trilogy being out, but like what is a fact that will be important now and in the next 20 hours versus what will be important toward the end.
Right.
But
yeah.
that feels like an overarching moment that I don't expect an answer to anytime soon.
Oh yeah.
Right.
But essentially, you have this vision. You end up recuperating back on the Normandy before we head off to the Citadel. And I sort of liked, and this is sort of, I guess, like toward wrap-up territory, but I liked that there was like this debriefing moment. I liked that it didn't just jump immediately. Where are we? Oh, we're on the Citadel and an important thing is happening. Move
Yeah.
along. It was like, here's a minute to collect yourself.
Yeah, go around, talk to Seth Green some,
Exactly.
hear some of his jokes. Oh, and then we did get that little scene too, which I liked, that you actually see the like Saren and matriarch scene, which is cool too. Like they showed that bit.
That was forgive me, I totally forgot about that, but that was a very shocking, like, kind of, I didn't expect to get the villain side of things.
No,
Right,
and then
yeah.
mommy matriarch shows up, just looking hot. Ooh, if I can't romance her, I'm gonna be really upset.
They do, yeah, Belinda, you're totally right. They linger for quite some time.
They linger. They definitely linger.
Yep.
My Shepherd enjoyed it. I didn't, but my Shepherd loved it.
You know,
right.
The internet's been going crazy over Lady Dimitrescu. I feel like if this had come out now, she would have been the object of everyone's affection.
Absolutely.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Use your space magic to step on me or whatever. I feel like really would have been the trending topic on Twitter. But it feels like, I hope that's a thing that we see recurring, because I do think, without getting, obviously we're going to have a lot of focus on Shepard and the crew of the Normandy and all of that sort of stuff. But I feel like if they don't end up building up the villains too compellingly, it will feel a little flat at this point.
Yeah, and I think it was super interesting to me that they did that, because normally when you get the villain stuff, it's just their interactions with your character and your party, and like that's the only time you're ever seeing them. You don't really see, like, not many games do it where it's like, oh, you're seeing them in their like natural habitat talking to like their flunkies, or like them talking about plans and stuff. So it was cool to see that, especially like, after the first mission, they're just like, here's the bad guy that's working along with Saren, and they're different races and like all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh whoa, yeah, they're dropping a lot right now.
Yeah. It was a really cool setup, and I'm glad it was introduced that early, because it does help to, I think, establish some stakes. But, we'll get a little bit more of Saren and everything when we head off to our first sort of main location, which is the Citadel. Before we get there, which will be in the next episode, is there anything else that I left out sort of in this initial area that either of you wanted to touch on or feel like we missed?
I don't think so.
No,
I'll need to look up my. I totally forgot what I named my Shepherd, and I'm glad you didn't ask me earlier on, because I couldn't remember. And so
Tell us.
I can't remember. I remember I was gonna make a funny name when I thought that I could change his last name, and then when I couldn't, I was like,
right.
I can't do one of those, like, I don't know, one of those funny 12-year-old joke names.
As we've established off show for all of us, but naming things is the hardest part.
Yeah.
It's the most terrible part. So I went simple. I just used my name.
Yeah. It's a good call. But as we were saying, I know we were criticizing a lot of parts of it, but like overall, I'm really invested. Like I genuinely.
Oh, yeah.
Same. Absolutely.
It establishes a lot of stuff really well, really quickly, that I was surprised about, because I think I had heard from some people that were like, oh yeah, it's a slow start, and I'm sold. Like I very much was, here we go.
Agreed.
Let's jump in. Let's see the rest of this adventure. I can't wait to see more.
Yeah.
I am playing mostly Paragon. I say mostly because there have been moments where I, get a little Renegade itch, and one of those was Caden running in front of the beacon, and there's a dialogue afterwards where he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, and I straight up was like, no, like, you shouldn't have done that, like, you fucked up, because he did, and like that he needed to know that. So I have a little bit of Renegade points for the people that deserved it, which
are the
I'm going to say that the medical assistant, Manuel or whatever, did not deserve it. So I'm
fair.
shaming both of you.
No, that's
I'm the opposite, and I have some. I never be mean in games, because anytime I try, I feel bad doing it. And this is the one game I was like, okay, I'm going to try to do it this time again. And I know I'm probably going to give in and end up going Paragon. But no, I'm going Renegade, and it's great. My Shepherd is a dick, and it's great. One of my friends says in his playthrough, he's doing Mama Bear, which is that you're an asshole to everyone else, but everyone on your ship, you're super nice to. So it's like, these are my cubs,
but
everyone
so
else,
funny.
like, I'm a dick to. And I was like,
That's amazing.
I kind of like that. Like, when you're out in the public, you're just like, yeah, I'm hardcore, and I'm ruthless. And then on the ship, you're just like, oh, my poor baby, go rest. It's
Do you
okay.
need juice? I'll help you.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
it was a tough mission. I know, you did great.
That's really interesting. I like that there is enough variety there, because Belinda, I was sort of leaning the same way with you of like, I think I'm leaning even a little bit more Paragon than that. Like I didn't chastise anyone but wanted to, but I was trying to see what like acting purely Paragon would be like, but I know that for like purists or completionists, like you can do a just absolute Paragon or absolute Renegade run. I feel like finding a balance of things is fun because it does, as we're both sort of saying, or all three of us are saying, it lets you role play it a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been where I'm just like, okay, because I've heard the talks, where it's like, oh, you have to just go one or the other, otherwise you're going to miss out on stuff or whatnot. But what it seems like is I'm just getting a ton of Renegade points anyways, and then for what seems to be the big Paragon Renegade choices, I make sure that I stick with the, like, okay, I'm doing Renegade. But then some of the smaller ones, I have been like, okay, like, I don't actually feel like being mean in this situation because it just doesn't feel right here.
Yeah.
But then, I'll punch a guy in the face who's talking too much. So,
right.
Exactly.
There's a balance.
You got to do what you got to do
about
sometimes.
Balance. It's actually very imbalanced right now, but
well, we'll have a lot of opportunity to find what our balance or lack thereof is on the Citadel, which we are going to be talking about in the next episode. So I think that pretty much wraps us up for episode 1, though, of Eden Prime character creation. I'm very excited by the beginning of this journey. I think we all are. And I can't wait to talk about where things go next. But thank you both for joining me for the start of this trilogy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And of course, Shep It is our first time through Mass Effect. So please, no spoilers. But if you want to write in, you can write into shepitpodcast@gmail.com with any questions or comments or thoughts. And we'll definitely check in on those in the episodes to come. So definitely write in, or you can leave a comment on the YouTube version of the show. You can also find it on various podcast services. Hopefully we should be up on everything right now, including Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. But otherwise, Spotify and a few other places. Anchor is your resource to find it everywhere. But thank you for tuning in. Can't even speak anymore. For tuning in, for listening, for whatever you're doing to support the show, we really appreciate it. You can find all of us on Twitter. I'm at JM Dornbush. See, I can't even say my own name. Belinda is at BBC Garcia, and Jordan is at Cryptic Jordan. You can find us talking about our Mass Effect adventures and plenty else on there. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening, and Shep It.
Shep It.
Shep It.